all units.
Prepare to copy.
You're listening to the 911Strong podcast.
Don't act like I never told you.
With Aram and Kristen, bringing you stimulating discussion.
No, I like the sound of that.
An entertaining conversation.
And now, here's Kristen and Aram.
All right, folks, we're back. We're with Hollywood conservative star Jason Wesley. And in the first part of our podcast, we discussed a gamut of things. It's because Jason's just an enlightened man. There's not a subject I've ever brought up with Jason that he hasn't been able to speak elaborately on. And when we left off, we were talking about what's going on in this country, and especially in the media right now, where Jason can be openly conservative, and because of that, he's getting backlash. And part of being where we left off, we were talking about being a conservative doesn't really mean we don't love the other people that we don't agree with. So one of the analogies we brought up was the fact that I'm drinking black coffee and you might be drinking, is that Gatorade and water?
Yeah, Powerade and
water.
Yeah.
And that
shameless plug. We might have to blur that out.
Well, hey, we'll tag them in this. But how if on the conservative end, I say, yeah, we're drinking different things, but that doesn't mean we can't have an enlightened conversation. Whereas someone on the extreme left might say, we can't even be in the same room together.
I've heard that. I've heard people say, people are even posting on their, there's dating apps, right? Bumble, Tinder, Farmers Only, I don't know. All these dating apps where they'll put, if you're a Trump supporter, swipe left.
Right.
Right? They're basically saying, I don't want anybody that supports this particular person close to me or in my life.
That's so sad.
I've heard people say, if I knew somebody was dying in a ditch and had a Make America Great Again hat on, that I would not save their life.
Jeez.
And I said, so you're telling me that if you didn't know, you would definitely rush in and save them. Right. The moment you got there, you saw Make America MAGA hat, and all of a sudden you're not going to save them anymore?
Yeah.
Don't you think that's kind of evil?
Yeah, I mean, it shows where their heart is, right?
Yeah.
It's like their allegiance is to a group as
Absolutely.
opposed to making their own decisions.
And that's where virtue signaling comes in.
Yeah.
It's, I'm going to look at this over here. I'm a part of this group, and this group is virtuous.
Right.
So because this group is virtuous, therefore I am virtuous.
Right.
It's the same thing that a lot of people that didn't like Christians for a long time did. They were like, people were saying, oh, well, I'm sanctified by the blood of Jesus, and I'm going to heaven, and you ain't.
Right.
You're going to they just acted like they were better than them. And that's not what we were called to be or do in the first place. It was go ye therefore into the nations and proclaim the good news of Jesus Christ.
Right.
It wasn't there for you to judge them
or
to tell them that they're wrong or going to go to hell. I have people that ask me that, so you think that these people are going to go to hell? And I'm like, I really don't know.
Right.
To be honest with you, I know what God's word says, and ultimately he's the one that is either going to allow you in or not. Even Jesus hanging on the cross said, Lord, forgive them for they know not what they do.
Right.
I don't know if they went to heaven or not.
Yeah.
I'm not there yet, but eventually I'll see and have that answer.
That's awesome. Well, we went really deep there, and let's change gears just a little bit because I think I'm curious as to this because if you watch TV or go to the movies, you're interested in Hollywood. So, what is some of the funnest projects you've ever been a part of?
Well, I don't know if it was because it was the most fun, but it was who I was working with, and that was working with Halle Berry.
Okay.
On her TV series that she had, and I remember she walked up to me and she was like, "Hi, I'm Halle."
Like you didn't know.
What? Obviously, that's who you are.
Right.
I was like, I know, I'm Jason.
Right.
That was how she approached me.
Right.
It was very respectful, and I've had people. I'm not gonna give you their name. We're at a table read. All of us are on the same show together. And I walk in, and this person who's a guest star on the show, because they're a famous singer, thinks everybody should know them.
Right.
And I'm like, hi, I'm Jason. Hi, I'm Jason. Hi, I'm Jason.
Sure.
Hey, your name?
Wow.
Right? Your name?
Right.
Because to be honest with you, it did slip my mind at the time. I was like, I should know this person's name.
No, but that's you though. I mean, you'll call people on the carpet when they need to be put in their place, and that's one of the things I love about you. Going back to Halle, I've never met her or been in the same breathing space as her, but I did see a series of videos from Terran Tactical online where she was doing her training for John Wick 3.
Yeah.
And she was incredibly, she was an incredible student. You could tell she did her homework and was an incredibly hard worker because you couldn't do any of the things she did without working hard at it.
Oh, yeah.
But during the side interactions that she would do with the camera people and whatnot, she seems so down to earth.
She is. As far as I know, anyway.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, after I'd worked with her, I thought it was a fake account. But okay, so growing up in South Carolina and Florida, if you have a baseball team and it's not the Mariners, it's probably going to be the Atlanta Braves.
Right.
I grew up in a huge Atlanta Braves fan.
Right.
And then all of a sudden I saw Hallie's ex-husband following me on social media.
Wow.
Dave Justice.
Wow.
And I was like, what?
Right.
I thought it was a fake account because it's private.
Sure.
I was like, let me follow this account. I don't normally do that.
You think
but
he was
I
spying?
like,
He's an ex. You think he was spying on you?
maybe. I don't know.
Right.
I honestly don't know. I know
Sure.
he's got kids. I know that, they were married.
Right.
But I'm like stoked.
Right.
What? Dave Justice, my childhood hero? He's following me on social media?
Yeah.
The other project that I worked on that I thought was actually amazing. Like, I've worked on different TV series, and a lot of the people are great.
Sure.
But the highlight of my career was doing a Nutrisystem commercial with Dan Marino.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I'm a huge Miami Dolphins fan.
Okay, yeah.
I grew up
Hall of
watching.
Famer.
Yeah. I got to throw football with Dan Marino
Wow.
on the beach all day.
What were you doing on that commercial? Were you supposed to be the after?
A football player. I was a football player. And we all, a part of it was us all having dinner and playing football on the beach.
Yeah.
I caught a 45-yard pass from Dan Marino.
Wow.
Not very many people can say that
No.
they did the thing with the star that they idolized since they were children.
Right.
I mean, that'd be like, being a pop singer, being able to perform like Chris Brown did with Michael Jackson.
Right.
Like, you're doing the thing that this person is known for on stage with this person.
Yeah.
So I was like, y'all don't even have to pay me for this one. And to be honest with you, I still haven't seen the commercial.
Right.
If I do, I'll post it so you guys can see it.
So how long ago was that one?
That one's probably like 7 or 8 years ago.
Isn't that crazy that he's still relevant today?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I couldn't tell you who some of the new football players are, but the ones that come to mind are the old guys that are just legendary. They don't make them like that anymore. Joe Montana's.
The people that stayed with teams and weren't virtue signaling.
Yeah. Yeah, that's so sad. I mean, I think that's what turned me off to the NFL. I used to watch the NFL every Sunday. You couldn't get me away from the TV. And now if I watch it, it's because I play fantasy football or whatever. But I can't get into any teams. So I used to have a team coming up, but now I don't. I mean, we have 3 local teams in LA now, and I can't get behind any of them because there's no loyalty.
Yeah,
just
isn't.
Right, but it's like, okay, I can get behind this team. Next season, they're a totally new team.
That was the crazy thing about like Michael Jordan, because he was with the Bulls, and you became a Bulls fan because of Michael Jordan and Scottie Pippen. A lot of people became a Golden State fan, because of the players on the team after, victory after victory after victory, and so I think there's something to that. Now, granted, I'm all for the individual. If you feel like you're getting a better contract over here with this other team, then by all means, now as a Miami Dolphin, I feel like everybody's getting better contracts with other teams. And so they end up leaving, and I'm like, oh man, looks like this year ain't the year. I almost think that we should have did what the Indianapolis Colts did when they got Andrew Luck. They literally lost almost every game that season so that they could have the first round draft pick the next season. Yeah. Picked up Andrew Luck, and now he just came out and said that he's retiring. So
I know, 2 weeks before the season started.
Exactly, and people are upset.
Yeah.
Can you imagine the people?
Do you have any insider information about that? What caused him to leave, or?
I think it's very similar to what Nicki Minaj just came out with today, and said that she's kind of getting out of the rap game so that she can start a family.
Okay. That's respectable.
So it's almost like, no, you work for me.
Yeah.
Actually, no, you don't. Whatever. So the libertarian in me is like, yeah, I guess, do whatever you want. I'm not happy about it, but do whatever you want. But the Maoist in me is like, no, you stay on this team.
Okay. Yeah. That's so hard, especially, to give back. You almost want to be to the point where you're loyal to the team that gave you so much, right?
Yeah.
But at the same time, you've given so many good years, and it's time to give back to yourself.
Absolutely. And one of the things that he did mention was that he had so many injuries. He's like, I only got one body. Right. And I'm not trying to, I want to be able to have a quality of life as well. He's made enough money.
Yeah.
You get a contract of $100 million. Think about it.
Yeah, if you can't live off of that.
You can't live off of that. You got other problems.
All right. So we did a little preview on social media saying that you were going to be on the show, and we had a couple people reach in with some questions. And I thought this one was kind of poignant since we began the first half of our 2-part series talking a little bit about politics. And this one comes from Red and Blue CH, specifically for you, Jason. It says, what's your opinion on Governor Newsom signing a bill telling citizens it's okay to lend assistance it's okay not to lend assistance to police officers. Did you hear about that one?
I vaguely heard about it.
Okay.
I did come across it, but I typically don't agree with most things that Gavin Newsom comes out with.
Yeah.
He's one of the reasons why we have such a homeless problem.
Right.
So I say he contributes a lot to it.
Yeah,
His
it makes it hard
policies.
for us to enforce it.
Absolutely. You know, and you have guys like Willie Brown that came out and basically said that he promoted him throughout his career.
Sure.
He also promoted Kamala Harris, who,
Right.
you know, he was married but having an affair with her,
Yep.
promoted her to
Yep.
Attorney General. And I saw that coming. Actually, I think this was maybe 3 or 4 years ago.
Sure.
When Barbara Boxer retired. I saw it and I was like, I think that they're going to run Kamala Harris. Now, Kamala Harris is she's not very likable.
Yeah.
She is just comes across as very mean.
Right.
And so I don't know. I mean, the media has been kind of pushing Elizabeth Warren, but Elizabeth Warren, she doesn't, cross those intersectional boxes anymore that we found out that she's
I think she's just the
1200 Native
fresher
American.
version of Hillary.
Yes.
I think that's what they're trying to push. She looks
Yeah.
like Hillary. She acts like Hillary.
Yeah. And so,
So who's that left over then? Bernie and
yeah.
Joe
Joe
Biden.
Biden.
Yeah.
Here's my prediction about when Barbara Boxer said that she was retiring. I followed the race with Kamala Harris and the other Democrats that were running with her, and conservatives in California that were running with her. I thought that she was going to get it, and then when I found out and followed the money, found out that the DNC gave her campaign $500,000 to market and move her campain, and I looked at who they gave, the other money to, and they gave zero to, I think it was Loretta Sanchez, who was running against her. She was a Democrat running against her. She just wasn't as, a leftist. And
She didn't follow the agenda.
She had a little bit of kind of rationale that went along with her policies. I disagreed with a lot of them, but
she's moderate.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so you used to have that. You used to have your moderate Democrats and your way leftist liberal Democrats, but now it seems like the moderates are being pushed out, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, Joe's numbers were coming down like crazy because, the squad, AOC and Omar and all them. It's crazy for me to believe that I'm saying this, but they're the leaders now.
Unfortunately.
And it's
at least in the eyes of the general public of people that are on social media.
Right.
I mean, Ilhan Omar, she's running through the ringer right now because of her infidelity with her husband and with the other married guy.
Isn't that funny how that's a scandal, but the scandal prior to that where she married her brother to get
is not.
Right.
And the thing is that you're not really hearing about it a lot. Ilhan Omar kind of is, she did like Homer Simpson did with the bush. He just kind of faded into it.
Yeah, that's a good analogy.
That's kind of what she's doing, what the media is doing for her. They're kind of like, there's nothing to see here. Yeah. Oh, by the way, you're going to see Epstein over there. There's nothing to see there either.
Right. Gosh. Hey, do you think that's because marrying your brother is less acceptable than having an affair these days? Do you think they pick the lesser of the two evils?
I think it's just, I think it's when you have people that don't have a mooring or a foundation in morality, it's not, they're not choosing one or the other. They're choosing both.
Right.
And it's like somebody, you'll hear people say if they're willing to lie to you, they're willing to cheat.
Sure.
If they're willing to cheat, they're willing to steal. Because it's all about getting them ahead and forwarding their agenda, which again, the opposite of love is selfishness.
Right.
And so I think about that and I look at that whenever I look at people's politics.
Yeah. Okay. So we started this with the question that Red and Blue CH presented. And you said you didn't know a lot about it, but I'm going to bring it up to you because I'm interested in your opinion.
Sure.
So we have an old law, and the law is if an officer asks you for assistance, that you shall help, or you're going to be fined $1,000. And so there's two types of interpretations. Gavin Newsom said on a talk show that this is an old law. It was back in the slave days. Where it was utilized to capture slaves if they ran away.
That if you saw them, you should say something.
Right, obliged to help. But everybody's up in arms, and I kind of agree with him. I mean, I don't support Gavin Newsom's policies, and I'm very much in the same boat as you. I don't really think he's doing a hot job. But with this law, I kind of agree because let's just say you're with your kids or whatever, okay, and you see an officer needing help. But you also see other able-bodied. You see 3 or 4 other able-bodied people that don't have kids.
Yeah.
is it necessary to put your kids at risk at that point, just to hold somebody down? Now, if the officer's life is in danger, that's different. But if he's asking you to help me grab this guy's arm, and there's 3 other guys that are closer to it, and you walk away, and they decide to give you a ticket over that, I think that's kind of too much,
Yeah, I would probably agree with you. The libertarian in me says that you can't force me to do something that I don't feel comfortable doing.
Right.
And if you're legit putting my life at risk because you need help holding somebody down, what happens if I help and the guy ends up getting your gun, like what just happened down the street?
Yeah.
And start shooting both of us.
Right.
Because if you saw whenever he got her gun, there was a woman that kind of came around and then she kind of backed up as he started shooting at her. Like, what if she was that person?
Right.
And now you're saying that she's going to be charged or fined $1,000 because she didn't help?
Right.
A lot of people don't know what to do when they're in situations. This is one of the reasons why I train jiu-jitsu. Why train non-lethal weapons course. Why I shoot. Why all of these different things are not so I can go out and shoot somebody or beat somebody up. It's so that I'm prepared whenever the situation arises that I need that. Yeah. And the average person doesn't do that.
Yeah, and you're anything but average. You brought up the jiu-jitsu thing. You train with Henry Gracie.
Yes.
And he's a big-time superstar and of the famous Gracie family.
Henry and Hiron.
Yeah.
Both of the brothers are amazing.
And but prior to that, I don't know when you started training your jiu-jitsu journey, but prior to that, you were a Navy corpsman.
Yes.
And as if that wasn't enough for you, you were attached to a Marine Force Recon unit, right?
Yeah.
And then you eventually joined the Marines. That must have been crazy.
Well, the Marine Corps, they don't have a medical, dental, or spiritual branch.
Okay.
The Marine Corps is the Department of the Navy.
Right.
And so, although what they call Marine regs, I went Marine regs, and I was stationed with Marines, and I was still held to their standards. I wasn't, on my uniform, on my camouflage uniform, it still said United States Navy.
Okay.
Right? Unless you were up close on me, you wouldn't be able to tell the difference.
Right.
The uniform, everything's the same, minus the chevrons.
Right. But you were still doesn't take away from the fact that you were attached to Force Recon.
Yeah.
I mean, for people that don't know what Force Recon is, because they're not really glorified in the media. You always hear about the SEALs, you hear about Delta, you hear about Rangers, but you don't really hear about the Marines Force Recon unit. I mean, they're legitimate badasses.
Yeah. I mean, the goal as reconnaissance is to gather information and not ruffle feathers, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
A good recon unit can get in, get close, get out,
right,
and have a lot of information that they can pass back to the other guys.
And there's an undercover element. A lot of these guys dress the part, and they can go in and, I mean, it's amazing. I would akin Force Recon to kind of like on the police, if I had to relate them to a police department, kind of like our narcotics division.
Yeah.
They can go in there and play the part and do a really good job and bring back some superior intelligence.
Yeah, absolutely. And the intelligence is really, the intelligence is what saves lives.
Right.
If you know that they've got 200 guys over here versus 8,
right,
then you can save lives.
Sure.
If you know that there's no civilians in a building because of the intel you're able to get, when they bomb the building and no civilians or children are injured, then that's a good thing if it was taking out the right people that were going to kill others.
So when you left the military, was acting something that was on your mind?
No, I actually worked at a hospital as a nurse for about a year and a half. And the mindset was a little bit different. And I had already started a business outside of that prior to me getting out.
Right.
And so I was operating my business. I was working, at the hospital in Charleston, South Carolina. And then one day it was just the back talking from the nurses. It wasn't back talking from the nurses. Is that I wouldn't necessarily eat in the nurses' lounge all the time because all they would talk about for the most part was who's sleeping with who, who
That's not
got
fun.
divorced.
Who wants to sit in a room full of
gossip?
gossip?
I mean, all I wanted to do was just watch The Price is Right and eat. But they would always talk, and so I would either spend my lunch in my office or going around and spending time with the other doctors that I needed to get to know better because we worked with their departments.
Sure.
So I did that for about a year and a half, and then there was a lady that I'd worked with that she was leaving, and her husband was actually military, and so he was not deployed, but he was transferring, and she ended up having to leave, and so she and I had different work ethics, and so she was very much if you read the book Personality Plus by Florence Littauer, she's a popular sanguine, so she was really into a lot of surface relationships, and I was about getting work done, and so when I took over her job, I literally would go in and I'd be done in an hour and a half.
Wow.
With what she was doing all day.
Right.
And, part of what she was doing was, going and talking to people and, hanging out and doing whatever. And so I was like, all right, what else we got to do? What else can we fix? What else can we make better?
Right.
And so whenever I worked in patient admin, whenever I was at one of my last duty stations, when you're good at something, you get more of it. And so I went to one clinic at the Naval Nuclear Power Training Command, and then I went to another clinic, and then I went to another clinic and ran the patient admin departments. And so, so whenever I got out, patient administration wasn't far off from what I was doing,
Right.
and I was working in outpatient clinics anyway. And so it was just another outpatient clinic, and it was fairly simple work. That way I could not expend a lot of energy there and not be able to grow my business that I had. And then so I was growing my business, and how I got into acting is really interesting. I was in the bank and I was making a loan payment on a car that I had owned at the time, which was a very dumb decision. The car choice was ridiculously stupid.
What was it?
It was a Daewoo. They used to make computers.
They're not
and they
even
made
around
cars.
anymore,
No,
yeah.
they came out for like a year.
Right.
I was like, oh, this is a great investment.
Yeah. You're driving a PC.
Yeah, exactly. And then they literally, I think Chevy bought them out, bought
Yeah.
their facility, and then shut down
Right.
the Daewoo division.
Yeah.
You couldn't get parts. You
Nope.
couldn't get anything. I had to pretty much give the car away
Right.
after 5 or 6 years. Anyway, so I was in there making a payment, and there was a guy who was the military advisor for Army Wives.
Oh, okay.
And Army Wives was filming in Charleston at the time, and he just looked at me a little bit longer than normal. So I didn't know what to think. I turned and looked back at him. I was like, can I help you? And he's like, are you in the military? Because a lot of military guys, law enforcement, kind of have that
Sure.
look.
Yeah.
And I said, not anymore. And I said, you? And he's like, yeah, used to be Marine. I was like, I was with Marines for 4 out of my 6 years. And he was like, then literally the walls came
Right.
down. We just got
Yeah.
to chit-chatting. And he was like, well, I'm the military advisor over here for this TV show. Have you ever thought about being an actor? And I did stage in college, and it was fun, at the time. And I was like, yeah, I thought about it, but who knows where to start.
Right.
So he said, well, I know the casting director, and I think you should at least meet him. We'll see where it goes.
Sure.
So I was like, sure. It was a business meeting. So I scheduled a time. I went by and met him and talked to the casting director. And, he said, I recommend you come and we, come be an extra a little bit because you've never been on a professional TV series set.
Right.
So whenever I was on set, I was asking questions to everybody. I didn't care whether in the lighting department, wardrobe, hair and makeup. Eventually, I became friends with most of the people on set. And then a couple of, I got an agent, got headshots, and, and opportunity came, and I didn't get it. I was like, oh well, it's my first time.
Sure.
For that show.
Right.
I had plenty of other opportunities, and I was working in the industry.
Right.
A lot in Charlotte, North Carolina, and in Atlanta. But I really wanted to work on the show because now my friends are on the show.
Right.
And so I was just an extra as much as I could, right? And then another opportunity came, and he said, I think this is perfect for you. I went in, auditioned for it, and I knew the writer. I texted the writer. I was like, hey, man, I just auditioned for your episode. He was like, man, that's awesome. I can't wait to see it. I knew the director. I texted the director. I was like, hey, I just auditioned for the episode that you're directing. I knew everybody in the process to the executive producer, called the executive producer, hey, I just auditioned for this episode, such and such. She's like, I can't wait to see it. I know the role, and you're perfect for it. Everybody in the chain all gave me their blessing.
Right.
And network said, no, we want a lady. We want a female.
Jeez.
So obviously I'm not a female.
Right.
Now I might have got it. I could just identify as one, and
Right.
then they'd be like, oh, what are you going to do? You can't say anything.
Why does the network have that much more pull than the people involved in it?
Because their money is involved. Yeah. If you're investing a lot of money in something, you have the say so.
Yeah, okay.
Like when you buy your house, your kids aren't telling you what
True.
remodel you're going to do.
Yeah.
Oh, well, Dad, I think you should put this color on this wall. Yeah, well, I don't like that color.
Yeah, they provided their input, but you're right. At the end of the day, it was mom and dad that made the decisions.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you're obviously doing a lot of things in Hollywood. What I think is fascinating is there are not a lot of working actors, right? I mean, it's one thing to be an actor and land on a show, land on a movie, but to consistently land gig after gig, that's very difficult, right?
Yes, it can be.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of factors that don't necessarily have to do with you. I always tell people, because my acting coach, I taught with her at Acting Pros. You can go to actingpros.com, and she has online courses that people can go to now. But I helped her start that when she came off of Army Wives and was working in LA. And so we started that. So I used to teach, and then I was coaching actors. And I always would tell people that if you get a call back, you're good enough.
Right.
You got it.
Right.
If you get a call back, you're good enough. Because you got called back. Not everybody's getting called back.
Right.
So whenever they would go in for the second audition, I would tell them just, make sure you're a little bit more grounded, make sure you a little bit more off book. I don't put stress on being, off script, because I think that adds to the audition mindset versus
separates you from the other actors.
Absolutely. Because if you see me with a script in my hand in the audition room versus nothing, then you as the casting director, you're looking at me going, oh, well, this is what they're going to bring the day of.
Right.
And so if you don't bring it, then they're like, it's not good enough.
Right.
But if you have the script in your hand, even if you're off of it, but you have it in your hand, it creates this kind of energy in the room like, this isn't the best I got. I have the script in case I need to go down and grab a line. Sure. But you know what?
Yeah.
I'm a 7 today. I'm going to be a 9 on set.
Right.
You
almost have to be your own motivator, right? Because the joke is you see sometimes on comedians when they portray actors, where is my motivation?
Yeah.
Right? But you kind of have to be your own motivation when it comes to these things.
Yeah, I think having a good community of people, I think having an acting partner, several of them, but probably a good one person that you can kind of call up anytime, because sometimes you get auditions and they're coming in, I'm not an A or B list actor, so I'm not getting, they're not coming to me saying, hey, we packaged this deal for you and you pretty much got it. You just got to say yes. Right. So in the audition space, you can have an audition. They're like, this has got to be in by tomorrow afternoon at 3 p.m. and you got it at 8 o'clock at night. Right. So now you've got to read 3 different scenes, 2 pages each scene, maybe 3 or 4 pages each scene, 6 or 7 or 8 pages. And you have to be grounded. Sure. And you have to be talking to somebody, know who you're talking to and what you're doing. And you have to simplify it because it's an audition. Right. Because you're not really chasing after a car yelling at somebody. Right. So how do you recreate that? How do you recreate a gun? Do you take a gun in the audition and point it at the casting director? Right. No. Yeah. So these are all things that we teach. And is how to create these strong, powerful auditions that are going to separate you from everybody else that walks in that room. Right. Because there's only going to be one Jason Wesley that walks through that room. And if they're not looking for Jason Wesley, they're not looking for me. Right. And I don't get mad at that. They're looking for somebody else. When Kevin Hart walks into the room, well, now they know who Kevin Hart is. Sure. But at one point, they didn't know who he was. So they're like, well, we know what we're getting with him. Right? And so that leads me to, I've been Me Too'd before. The Me Too movement. It struck me, and so I was on set and we were filming and we were doing a rehearsal. So before they actually call action, they kind of set up the lights, set up the camera. You go through a rehearsal, where are you going to walk? Right. Blocking. Blocking. Right. And so, we're blocking everything, and there was a lady in the room at the desk and I have to walk in. I'm everybody's boss and I have to walk in to the room. And, ask her what she's doing or whatever, kind of hand against the back of the chair, looking over her shoulder kind of thing or whatever. And so we're blocking that movement and then, kind of walking out. Well, we had just finished rehearsal and the DP is there. One of the actresses, another female is there. The female that Me Too'd me is there. Another guy is there. And one of the producers is in the room. In this room. Everybody's in this room. And I was like, well, since they're, now they're getting all the lights that they need, right? In this interim, I was having an issue going from here to here, whatever. I was like, do you guys mind running this a couple more times real quick? I just want to make sure that I land this like I need to before, you have 100 people that are sitting there waiting on you to get your act together. Right. So I walked in, I said what I had to say, and she responded and flubbed her lines and said something that was funny, but it was slightly sexual, right? And I can't remember exactly what it was, but I was like, what'd you say? And then she's like, oh my gosh, I'm sorry, whatever. I laughed, put my hand on her shoulder and squeezed, oh, right. Anyway, let's go ahead and run this back again. About 30 minutes later, after we're done, 30, 45 minutes later, after we're done shooting that particular scene, The director calls me over and he says, "Hey, Jason, I gotta talk to you for a second." And I was like, "Okay, well, what? Everything's going good, right?" You know? And he said, "Well, it doesn't sound like you." He said, "But the other actress that you were working with in the room that was sitting at the desk, did you touch her inappropriately?" And I said, "No, the camera was in the room. Everybody was in there. I was never alone in the room with her to be inappropriate with her."
Right.
What do you? It didn't even clue into me that I was like,
Right.
that. And so she said, I massaged her shoulders.
Goodness gracious. She was probably more embarrassed of the fact that she, said that comment.
Yeah.
And is now trying to deflect it on what you did.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Now, here's the thing. This director and producers, they both, were talking to me, and they're like, we've never, out of all of the ladies that we've ever put you in a room with, we've never had anything come close or any hint of you being inappropriate with any women.
Right.
And I was like, yeah, you guys know me. Like, we've worked together over the last 5 years, at least 2 or 3 times a year.
Right.
And so he's like, well, we got to do our job. We have to say something. Now, here's the thing. Because she was exaggerating about that. Now, she may have issues. She may have personal issues. But do you think that helps her or hurts her?
Oh, yeah. Well, nobody wants to have someone that's going to cause trouble around set, right?
Yeah.
So.
And the thing is that if she's known for that, and I'm a producer, I'm not bringing her on my set because there's too much liability
exactly.
that goes along with that.
Right.
And so people have to think about that. And I'm not saying, listen, I know other actresses who have been propositioned, who have been inappropriately touched, and they don't ever want to say anything. And I'm like, no, you need to say something. If you don't go to the police, I will.
Right.
I have a friend right now who has a situation that I'm trying to get her to say something.
Right.
Right? I am an advocate for ladies who are abused to do something or say something, but I can't do it for them.
Right.
So what I do is I talk to them about it. I let them get it out. And then I'm like, you need a strong support system. If you ever need anything, I had a friend of mine, send me a text message that she was really stressed out about everything that had gone on or whatever. And she's like, I don't know what I think about life. I'm on my way.
Right.
Drop whatever I'm doing. I'm on my way because you matter.
Right.
And I think that if that was on the left, unfortunately, and a Trump supporter sent them a text saying, I don't know if I'm going to live, they'd probably say good riddance.
Right.
Now, I'm not castigating all people on the left saying that that's what they would do, but with the hate and vitriol they have for President Trump, they would allow that to cloud their vision of actually doing the right thing.
It's not far-fetched to have that impression.
Absolutely.
So I know you alluded to yourself as not being an A-lister, but in my book, you certainly are, man. I think you're one of the most genuine guys I've ever met, and it's been an incredible pleasure having you on this show. Jason and I had conversed prior to this, and I wish we had hours upon hours for you to get to know Jason, but where can they follow you if they want more of Jason Wesley?
My Instagram is a place. Jason Wesley is. You just type in my name, you'll see hundreds beside my name. Jason Wesley. Also on Facebook, if you look me up on Facebook.
Yeah, you have some imposters, so you have a verify hash mark, right? Check mark. So.
So I've been dealing with an issue with that. Had we had time to talk about social media, I've had meetings at Instagram. I've had meetings at Facebook.
Right.
That's a whole other conversation in itself. And we are working on getting
so
verified.
But it's the one with the 100.
Yes, beside my name.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah, so when you see Jason Wesley, you can follow me there. My YouTube, I'm starting to grow that. I've got a bunch of videos on there.
Okay.
And so, wherever you see me, you'll see me.
Yeah. Instead of talking about the social media, you can just go see it for yourself. His stuff, that's how I found Jason. His stuff is hilarious. He's very creative behind the camera as well and has a lot of vision. And some of the skits that you did are just incredible. And who knows? You might see one of me and Jason together in the future.
Yeah.
All right, Jason. Well, it's been a pleasure having you on. And thanks again for joining us here on the 911 Strong podcast. We're under the society and culture genre, and I think we covered that today. It was a real treat having you on because most of the time we're talking about police-related issues.
Yeah.
It's a nice little break to talk about something other than that and giving us more insight and having an enlightened person enlighten us. So
thank you.
We thank you for coming on board, and thank you for tuning in. And we'd love for you to subscribe, give us 5 stars, tell your friends about us, and we want to hear about what you have to say. Follow the 911 Strong podcast on Instagram, and you can follow me on Instagram and Facebook at 911 Strong. Thanks, guys. Appreciate you tuning in. Take care.